Hello, Idol fans. Welcome back to episode 3 review. Again, I'm not going to brag about being high tech and having all the cool little, you know, video clips and that. I'm just going to shoot straight. This is just about opinions and ideas, and I'm not a techno guy at this point. I hopefully will get better if I decide to keep doing this. But in the meantime, just want to let you guys know this is about information. This is about ideas, takes, perspectives that you're not going to get from anybody else because nobody else has really been behind the scenes like I have. And because of that, I think I have some very unique perspectives that I'd like to share with you. And tonight is no different. I've got some very definite opinions about some of the things I saw. Now, one thing I will admit, I was in error on episode 1 when we're looking at that introduction sequence that I think a lot of people have enjoyed and were impressed with. I was thinking they may have had to hire actors and that some of those scenes were staged. Well, first thing we find out as we arrive in Philadelphia and we see that Clay Aiken will be the co-host or the former idol in residence. We also notice that this immediate first person, Gianna Isabella, is somebody who is related to somebody famous already, Brenda K. Starr, who had a song that I think most of us older folks remember, I Still Believe. I still believe. And yes, I do not sing, nor do I ever claim to. I play around. I'm a trumpet guy. But anyway, I know that song even, so I think it had a great hook. If I know it, it must have had a great hook. I wasn't really into those kind of songs. But anyway, with that being said, a nice little family moment to help compensate for the atrocious Kanye West moment from the first episode. So at this point, let's just kind of look at Gianna Isabella. Could she be the final winner of American Idol 15? I don't think so. And even though she's good, she's strong in certain areas, again, for those of us that have heard tons and tons and tons of wonderful, fantastic singers, over time, it's like I say, it's like the Olympic level coaches that can watch all the best people in the world and they can spot where they're losing their 1,000th of a second. Okay, I feel like that's how it is with my ears. When I hear singers, especially singers, even though I'm a trumpet player, I get singers really well, and it's easy to figure out what's missing. For me, anyway. I can tell what's missing with her, and I'm going to tell you what it is. And this is something that could be fixable, but she doesn't have enough nuances in her dynamics. Everything's just kind of like, it starts at a certain level, gets up to a certain level, and comes back to that same level. And what happens is some of her phrases aren't continuing, like, it's kind of like this. It's like if I were to talk, and everything I said went like this. And then the next thing I said went like this. And the next thing went like this. So I'm starting and stopping instead of keeping something going like this, where there's more of a hesitation or a comma, right? And so that's kind of how it is when you're singing, or when you're creating a musical phrase. And like I say with Gianna Isabella, her mother's a singer, but I can tell you this is really, really, really advanced, high-level detail stuff that hardly anybody, unless they're really, really, really experienced at this, are going to pick out. And what it does is, Gianna Isabella, it's kind of like she's letting the air out of some of those moments and the phrases. It's not staying full all the way through. Okay, again, reference David Archuleta. That's one thing he really does well is, people that, this is again what separates someone that's really good from being world class. Okay, so she's really got excellent potential, but I do see that she's got a lot to learn still. So I will say that we could see her in the future for a while. She definitely has a really sweet personality. She's got the ability to create some edge, but she still seems young. There are people that are going to overwhelm her, I think. Okay. Now, it is kind of fun to have the touching moments with J-Lo and her mom reminiscing and all that. So I'm sure all of you females are really enjoying that. Us guys, yeah. All right. Now let's continue. Um, Clay Aiken's advice, sing a little bit of the verse and get to the chorus as quickly as possible. Yeah, maybe, but way much more. That's way oversimplifying things. Um, anyway, we won't get into details with that. Let's just say that I don't know if Clay's style is ever going to be that successful again. And it's interesting that if you notice, we don't really have any Clays so far. And they're basically just kind of tenor crooners. Phil, what was his last name? A guy named Phil was also a guy that reminded me that kind of voice, that real pretty high tenor voice. And it's really easy for him to sing high notes and just stay up there. But it gets a little old. They don't have enough soulfulness. I think that's really what I feel. Like with Clay, he's got a lot of technique, and he's got like a really small aperture where his sound comes out. So his voice, like, it's really effortless for him to sing in that high register. But when he tries to sing ballad stuff, it just doesn't it doesn't work for me. I feel like I'd love to get to work with Clay and people that have that kind of voice to help them develop some bottom end and some edge to it so that they are actually able to have more soulfulness. If you think about it, to get good at music, what you're trying to do is expand your options. You're trying to give yourself more choices. And so the greater you can expand what you can do with your voice, and like say a Josh Groban, same kind of issue. What he does beautifully. But there's certain things that he tries to cross over to that it doesn't transfer well, like pop stuff. Unless it's an epic power ballad, it just doesn't work. And so I think it's a matter of creating more control and depth of what you can do with your voice. And like I say, I'm not sure that Clay's he's not a good enough mentor. He doesn't have enough going on, I think, for most singers. So, done with that. Let's move right along here. Okay, good old Derek Huffman. And did I love the answers to all those questions except Simon Cowell? What the heck? This kid obviously knows nothing about the show, history of the show, but it was funny that he had no clue that any of them referred to Clay. So anyway, he gets on there, and then evidently this kid actually thought he had some talent, and I hate to break it to him, but he wasn't even in the ballpark talent-wise. I mean, his skill set. Let's just call it skills, okay? Talent, skills, he didn't have it. And the fact that he took it personal and got all upset, it's like, come on, dude, you're delusional. You're one of those delusional kids that just, you need to learn how to look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself, man. You're going to have a hard time in life if you can't just be honest with yourself. And this is a good opportunity to learn that. And it's a hard lesson because it's really hard to admit that you're not as good as you want to be, but that's how you start to grow. When you can admit where you're at, then you can start to realize that, okay, well, how do I raise the bar? So I'm aiming a little bit higher or a lot higher. You aim a lot higher, the odds are you'll improve. If you aim a little bit higher, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But if you aim a lot higher, so this kid really needs to set his bar much, much higher. He wasn't that entertaining. I didn't think the gimmick. What gimmick? He brought in an old ghetto blaster? It wasn't even a ghetto blaster, just an old little... I mean, I don't know. I thought it was pretty senseless and pointless, and the guy got exactly what he deserved, with all due respect. Okay, let's move on to the next contestant. 15-year-old Isaac Cole, McNanny. Real likable kid, no question. Okay voice, definitely does not have the control over the center of his pitch. Very young sound. Maybe he's, I don't know, I don't see him going very far. I'm sorry, but I think the judges were a little overreacting. the main thing, kind of like what Harry's saying, it's like the kid's not quite authentic yet, just way, way young. There's no way this kid's going to make it very far. And exactly, I have to agree exactly with what Harry was saying. Um, you can't, he's too young to be taken seriously enough or authentically enough to go very far. Even if he were to make top 24, I'd see him going really early on. So, again, nice kid, real likable, potential, but definitely, I see him being way less prepared, for example, than John Isabella. So, that's it. We're going to go ahead and skip. I'm not going to comment on some of the in-between stuff that took place. Let's go straight to Sarah Sturm. Okay, now, really good singer. But again, I don't think her image is going to last long enough. She's really sweet, girl next door, but she looks really young. And again, I just don't see her quite having the image that the show's going to be able to market as the next Kelly Clarkson. So again, great story. It was really fun the way they played on the words. You got to give Harry credit for that last omelet statement. It did go over everybody's head. I didn't catch it the first time, but that was clever and it was spontaneous. So let's give Harry some credit for being the jazz musician that he is. Because hey, that's what jazz people do, is they improvise and they're spontaneous and they're supposed to be good at it. So I think Harry showed us that yes, he's got it. All right, so let's talk about Sarah. How good is she? How ready is she? Okay, really a lot of depth. There's a lot of, you feel her notes. A lot of really good vibrations coming through in her music, right? You can feel it. The question is, again, she's 17, but she almost looks like she's 14 or 15. She's really cute. I just don't know how far she's going to be able to survive. Okay, there's another element that we're going to have to see, and that is how do they build week to week? How do they put in the comma? How do they keep meeting or at least showing us something new? I think she's got some depth to her, but let's see if she's able to find the right fits for more songs. I like her soulfulness. She had a really nice pocket, really nice feel, but I still felt she sounded young. She sounds her age. So, again, let's see what happens. Okay, let's not even talk about some of these terrible voices, okay? We do need to mention briefly Ellis Banks. I haven't had a tweet from somebody that asked me if I, what I felt about people like Ellis Banks. And, I guess Ellis Banks is part of the fun of the show, because it is fun to allow people that will allow themselves to be made fun of or made fun with, however you want to look at it. And, Ellis obviously was who he was, and he definitely didn't have any talent in my opinion. And I thought it was a waste of camera time, but hey, some people I guess enjoy these funny, quirky, strange people, and I just would have thought they could have come up with something better. So let's just move right along and not even waste our time, because the next contestant, to me, is the most interesting contestant so far of the whole season. Now, having said that, do I think she's going to last? I hope she does, because I think she might be someone who might really have some creative genius in her. And the reason I'm saying that is, this Jen Blossel, and coincidentally, and this is really interesting for those who are from Utah or are Mormon. When I saw Jen, my first impression is, what the heck is this chick on? And I couldn't tell if she had an accent or what the heck she was saying. She just talks such a strange way. And so I thought, Okay, she's from Orem, Utah. Okay, that's just down the road. About 20 minutes. It's like a suburb of Salt Lake almost, okay? So I thought, well, she doesn't seem LDS. Well, so I do some quick homework. Not only is she LDS, she's a returned missionary. She's been on a mission, like my son David. Now, if you look at David after his mission, you look at this girl after his mission, it'd be hard to believe that they're both returned missionaries. Now, I'm not being judgmental. Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm being. That blows my mind. But it creates a real curiosity for me about her. Because again, we've got a returned missionary, LDS girl that looks like she's an eccentric, kind of like completely out there. But I think she knows exactly what she's doing. And it might be that she's got an extremely strong spiritual center, kind of like David. And, most of his music really is based around his spirituality. And that's what you feel in his music. People don't... I've had, thousands of people over the years express that they feel something from music, but also that there's something special they feel from David's music. And it's probably the spirituality that comes through. I think this girl is someone to really watch. I'm really curious about her because I think she could be a legitimate superstar artist. And I want to see how she works through, Hollywood Week. She could just crash and burn because she's so far out there. It's hard for a lot of those kind of people to do it, to make it very far. The blonde girl from a couple seasons ago, again, I forgot her name, I'm sorry to say. But that was quirky. She wasn't near as strong as this girl. Jen has got way more depth to her. I mean, she's almost like, I could see her being like the next Ingrid Michaelson. She's so quirky, but I think there's going to be a lot of depth to her musicianship. And the fact that she's so willing to be out there on the edge. I really like her. So let's see what happens here. And she absolutely just, her interpretation of that song was just fantastic. It's like the edge of her voice, the depth that she was able to elicit was very, very impressive to me. So I'm very excited to see what she's able to do. And one other thing I do want to mention, it's interesting that over the last several years, we probably had at least a dozen singers from Utah be on the show, and a lot of them are singing Imagine Dragons songs, Radioactive, and this one absolutely, though, was such a great interpretation because she just completely deconstructed it and reconstructed it as a ballad with subtlety and sensitive moments. And when she opens up and puts that grit and edge in her voice, it's really easy for her. And I feel like she can really go a lot of directions that we're going to want to see. And the fact that I'm assuming she plays guitar, plays piano. And also you might want to do some homework on her. It appears that she's from a very musical family and started playing piano at a very young age and has probably had a really great upbringing as far as being able to learn music. And like I said, I'm really interested to see how far she goes creatively and what she's able to do on the show. If this is going to be a limiting environment for her, or if she can flourish in it. I'd love to be able to talk to her. I think she's got some incredible potential, and there's some stuff that I understand about probably how she thinks and feels that I think could really help her be successful in this competition, assuming she's made it through Hollywood, which I don't know. So I do hope to see a little bit more of her, and I may continue to do some more background checking on her. And if you look at, she's got a Reverb Nation site, I believe, and if you listen to that, there's some really good stuff on there, and you can also see her image. I will say that I really don't understand her appearance. Maybe she's going to transform before our eyes, and maybe that was the intent, to start real gentle and kind of plain and kind of I don't know, ambiguous as to what she is as far as her image. But boy, if you go to these online sites, she's very clear on what she's doing. Her hair, her dress. So I think again, she's going to be a very interesting artist, regardless of what happens on the show. All right, now let's not even worry about the flirty guys and this and that. And I really, I think we can get in a little bit. This next guy, Harrison Cohen, again, a nice kid. It's great that he's writing. Again, to me, this is kind of like a lot of the kids I see around here in Utah that are talented, but he's so young. There's no way he's ready for this. But at the same time, he's a fun kid. Good story. His grandpa's great. I think he's a good story. Much better story than I think the Ellis Banks one. Again, nothing against Ellis Banks. Just so you know, I just think that it seems like there's more interesting characters out there. I don't know. I think if you're going to devote that much time to somebody, I don't know. Just my opinion. Okay. Now, this kid, like I say, he's got some talent. Again, his chops, his musical chops, musicianship, is still very young. So there's no question he's not going to go very far. I don't see him making it through Hollywood Week. Okay, now, as this is a shortened episode, we're about done already. We've got one more person to talk about. And I would like to give you a little bit more background info on a couple other things, but let's talk about this John Arthur Green. Okay, that's got to be one of the most poignant, powerful, unbelievable stories to imagine that you had to live with that the rest of your life. Your best friend, your brother, to have a situation like that. I can't imagine what that family must have gone through. Just can't even imagine it. So let me just say that's a very powerful, moving story, and immediately, it really does make you want to pull for this guy. He's had some success. He's performed on Broadway. I don't know much about the show Matilda. Something I want to go check out. Keith Urban seems to think it's got some good songs in it. Maybe it does. I'd like to go check him out. I would say that I felt he was good, but again, there's some depth missing. A lot of depth missing. Edge. I feel that he's got too much control of certain things, and so he needs some more of that grit and rawness to come through. So, let's just do a quick recap then of where we're at so far. If you look at tonight's contestants, I don't know if this is a reflection of Philadelphia just being a bomb for a city, or if this is the best stories they've got so far. I got to look back and say, do any of these people from tonight look like they are a bookend to Kelly Clarkson? Okay, and let's just review real quickly the pros and the cons. John Isabella, good but young, not mature enough musicianship-wise, even though she definitely has the potential from what I'm hearing, but I think she's still too young, and this I don't see this translating that she's going to be able to go far into the competition, even though I'd love to see her do well. But I can just tell she doesn't have the skills. All right. Isaac Cole, again, way too young. I don't see him having any of the control. Harry and Keith both were pretty good about just speaking about what his weaknesses were. And like I say, he's okay, but he's not going to last very long. Okay, Sarah Sturm, same thing. She's 17, but she looks like she's 14 or 15. She's really good. She's cute. She's likable. Skill set isn't there. She's not going to make it. We're going to skip Ellis. We'll go back to Jen Blossel. Like I say, I don't know, but she's got depth. She might have the skill set. She could be someone that could go all the way. the same time, she could crash and burn Hollywood Week. Let's see what happens. Okay, and Harrison Cohen, again, this whole night, it's like a bunch of cute, young, likable, interesting teenagers, but there's no way they're going to have the depth to last long enough into this show. Okay, just think, we've got LaPortia. You really think that anybody from tonight's show is going to hang with LaPortia? There's not a chance. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. You got to look at the long-term thing. None of them are even in that league, so they're not going to be able to make it. John Arthur Green, what a likable story. You want the best for the guy. I'm glad that he's being successful. I mean, come on, he's on Broadway. So this is a guy you don't have to feel that he's not getting fulfillment out of doing his music. So if anything, he's already kind of living the dream, even though I just don't see him being an American Idol. I mean, maybe he could. Maybe I take that back. He's definitely an American Idol. I just don't know if I see him winning American Idol. That's what I mean. I don't want to be disrespectful in any way. He's absolutely the kind of person that seems like you'd want to mentor. We want to respect his story and look up to it. I just don't know if his skills are going to be strong enough. I just don't feel the depth there, okay? So, let's do a quick review. Where are we at? Episode 1, 2, and 3. Is that halfway? I think it is. So if that's the case, we've only got 3 more episodes to see the rest of the contestants. Out of who we've seen so far, does anyone really stand out as being an obvious standout? Well, as far as singing goes, LaPortia. Okay, there's nobody that's close to her so far. Nobody. Okay, there's some really good singers. There's some really good stories. Some of those young singers, that guy, Josh, the Ryan Gosling guy. I mean, there's a lot of voices and intimacy to the music and people that really are connecting well. But again, are they going to be skilled enough to translate that week to week? Now's when they really need to come up with an effective strategy as they're starting to figure out, okay, the first live week, I've got to make a very strong first impression because you only get one chance, right? And again, it's different when you're singing live versus when you're singing these auditions. And sometimes a lot of these contestants are going to overthink things. So we'll see what happens during Hollywood Week and how many of them survive and what we end up for our final season, final 24. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm also going to be putting out some other videos that are going to give you just more background information on how music works and the music learning system that I share with people that I work with to help them get good at music. And I've got a lot of really just short little snippets that are kind of to the point that will help you kind of get familiar with some of the vocabulary and some of the ideas that I'm trying to get people familiar with that I think will assist them as they're trying to learn how to get better at music. So again, we'll look forward to talking next. Episode 4. You'll see it probably around Friday, early afternoon. And it looks like that's going to be the process. It's going to take me usually the next day to really get this figured out and feel comfortable that I've covered all of the essential points. And I'd like to think that I could just do it fresh after each episode, but I realized I like to watch again and really let things soak in and make sure that I'm not missing anything on any of these kids. And I'm giving them all the benefits of the doubt, but I am trying to be very critical, and I'm going to continue to be. Because again, we're looking for that final bookend. Who can live up to Kelly Clarkson's standard moving forward? Do any of these people have what it takes? Let's see. Okay, so again, let's look back at our last contestant, John Arthur Green. And Again, there's some really wonderful moments that you want this guy to do well. If you look at his performance, though, it was too calculated. It didn't seem believable or edgy or raw enough. It was way over choreographed with Broadway type licks, not poppy, country, cool, rugged, a little bit more authentic sound. So his sound really needs to be changed for him to last. So, like I say, I like the guy, but I just don't see it's not gonna work. Now, let's just look at where we're at then. We've got 3 episodes halfway through the auditions. Who stands out? Tonight, Jen. I think clearly she was the most interesting person. I think she's the most original, most creative, had the most depth. I would think that John Arthur Green, interesting, but I don't see any of these other contestants, even Jonna Isabella, of having enough depth to compete with some of the contestants we've seen so far. Nor in the pretty voice category. I think there's just some more. I think some of the girls their image looks better, and I hate to say this, but it's true. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, moving forward, even like for someone like LaPortia. It's like you're going to have to figure out how to stand out when you're against the cute little 17, 18-year-old teenager girl that all the boys are going to have a crush on. And, that's why this part of this game is just brutal. But at the same time, I like LaPortia. Right now, she is the person I sure want to hear next. And next to her is Jen. And some of the guys from previous episodes, I'm not sure there's enough there. So let's see what happens in episodes 4 through 6, because I'm still looking for that matching bookend for Kelly. I'm not sure we've seen them yet. So let's see what else Idol has in store for us. I look forward to seeing y'all tomorrow. I'll have another review of episode 4, and at some point I may get a little bit more high tech. And I'm sorry this is so low tech, but in the meantime, it is what it is. I'm just going to give you opinions and things to think about. Some of them I hope you'll enjoy. And again, sometimes I'm hoping that some of the stuff we've just learned about what it takes to get better at music. That's really what I think this is all about, is helping people learn more about music and understand how to think and process and experience it so you can get more out of it, because we love music. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.